Welcome to this course on how to develop class values. This course will enable you to develop class values that will help bring out the best behavior in your students. The learning objective of this course is to guide you on how to develop your class values. In terms of an outline, 1. We will enlighten you on why it is important to have class values. 2. We will introduce you to what class values are. 3. We will guide you on how to develop your class values. 4. Finally, we will give you a gem step to practice after the course. Do you desire to see your students excel in class as well as live out their values wherever they find themselves? C.S. Lewis said, "Education without values, as useful as it is, seems rather to make man a more clever devil." This statement helps us understand that not only is education important, but it serves society well when its products are value-driven. So, why are class values important? Class values are very important because they help your students grow and improve as well as create the future they want to experience. R.K. Mukherjee was an Indian historian and a noted Indian nationalist during the period of British colonial rule. He was also a leading thinker and social scientist of modern India. He states, "By their nature, all human relations and behavior are embedded in values." What does this mean? Our values influence the way we think. They help you, together with your students, to understand what needs or need not exist in your class. They also influence the attitudes and behavior of your students. In using and adhering to class values, some behaviors in class would be more preferred over others. R.K. Mukherjee further explains that values are the guideposts of our lives, in that they direct us to become who we want to be. The same can be said for the class, since we believe your students would have a picture of how harmonious they would want their stay in class to be. Class values do not only guide your students, they inspire and motivate your students to do something meaningful. Durkheim, another sociologist, also emphasized the importance of values in controlling disruptive individual desires. That is to say that some students may want to do something they want which might inflict pain on other students. For instance, a student with a leadership role may unconsciously become bossy or intimidate other students in the name of leading the group. The class values would keep such a student in check so he or she does not hurt a colleague while carrying out a task. Durkheim also emphasized that values allow individuals feel that they are part of something bigger than themselves, that their intention to live out the values helps them play a role in bringing out that harmonious class they desire. So, what then is a class value? Values generally are the fundamental principles that influence and guide our behavior. They also reflect how we relate with other people around us. Class values are the rules that help our students make decisions about right and wrong as well as what is important. Just as rules are important in a class, values are key. According to Zalesnik and David, values are the ideas in the mind of men compared to norms in that they specify how people should behave. Values also attach degrees of goodness to activities and relationships. Unlike rules, values add a positive effect to the activity engaged in. Having class values transcends putting them on paper. Classrooms with strong core values are likely to do better than those without strong core values. This is because in such classrooms, the values are exemplified through the activities, attitudes, and behaviors of the students as well as the teacher. Let us now guide you on how to develop class values to help you bring out the desired behaviors in your students. In developing your class values, we know as a teacher you would have your own values that you want your students to imbibe. Nevertheless, it is always more preferred to let your students decide and agree. These values become a part of who they are and who they strive to be each day. Ready? Let's dig in. Step 1. Ask your class to take a deep breath and empty their minds. Remember that our conscious mind doesn't have all the answers. They should create space for new insights and revelations to emerge. Getting in the right mental and emotional state is an essential first step. Step 2. Create a list of personal values. Ask each student to create a list of their personal values. We discover and reveal our values. To help your students uncover their personal core values, here are 3 processes you can try. 1. Peak experiences. Consider a meaningful moment, a peak experience that stands out. What was happening to you? What was going on? What values were you honoring at that time? 2. Suppress values. Now, go in the opposite direction. Consider a time when you got angry, frustrated, or upset. What was going on? What were you feeling? Now flip those feelings around. What value is being suppressed? 3. Code of conduct. What's most important in your life? Beyond your basic human needs, what must you have in your life to experience fulfillment? Creative expression, a strong level of health and vitality, a sense of excitement and adventure, surrounded by beauty, always learning? What are the personal values you must honor, or a part of you just goes numb? Step 3. Chunk your personal values into related groups. Combining all the answers from step 2, you now have a master list of personal values. Maybe there are between 10 and 15 values on your list. That's too many to be actionable. Your next step is to group these values under related themes. Values like love, care, and empathy are all related. Values like learning, growth, and development relate to each other. Connection, belonging, and intimacy are related too. Group them together. 4. Highlight the central theme of each value group. If you have a group of values that include honesty, transparency, integrity, candor, directness, and truth, select a word that best represents the group. For example, integrity might work as a central theme for the group of values listed. We can keep the other words in the group in parentheses to give your primary value more context. You'll use them again in step 6. Step 5. Determine your top personal core values. Now comes the hardest part. After completing step 4, you still may have a sizable list of values. Here are a few questions to help you whittle your list down. What values are essential to my life? What values represent my primary way of being? What values are essential to supporting my inner self? How many core values should you end up with? Too few and you won't capture all the unique dimensions of your being. Too many and you forget them or won't take advantage of them. While the number of core values differs for each person, the magic range seems to be between 1 to 5. Rank them in the order of importance. This is often the most challenging part. You may need to do this step in multiple sittings. After doing one round of ranking, put it aside and sleep on it. Revisit your ranking the next day and see how it sits with you. Then, go through the process again. Step 6. Give your personal values richer context. Now, creativity comes into play. Highlighting values into memorable phrases or sentences helps your class articulate the meaning behind each value. It gives them the opportunity to make the value more emotional and memorable. Here are a few tips and guidelines for crafting their value statements. Use inspiring words and vocabulary. Our brains are quick to delete or ignore the mundane and commonplace. Mine for words that evoke and trigger emotional responses. They will be more meaningful and memorable. Play to your strengths in crafting your values. Make your value statements rich and meaningful to you so they inspire you to uphold them. For example, let's say you've identified the core value of love to represent other values like care and empathy. Your value statement might be love, to love unconditionally every day. Step 7. Test the ecology of each value. Once the class has completed their list of core values, let them walk away from them and revisit them the next day after a good night's sleep. Let them review their list. How do the values make them feel? Do they feel they are consistent with who they are? Are they personal to them? Do they see any values that feel inconsistent with their identity, as if they belong to someone else, like an authority figure or society, and not them? Let them check their priority ranking. Do they feel like their values are in the proper order of importance? Nothing is final. They should make any changes and tweaks as necessary. Having settled on their individual values, let the whole class agree on a maximum of 6 values that will drive their behavior. Prepare a class value statement when all is said and done. Afterwards, let your students sign a class code of cooperation to keep them accountable. Please note that in developing the class values, as much as possible, do not portray them as rules. Saying do this, do that might not be a good motivation. Instead, label the class with the class values by saying, this is a class that. It gives them a picture when you say, this is who we are. Research shows that if you tell a child they are something enough times, they will become it. You can choose to focus on a different core value each year, or focus on an area of their school life. Also, ensure the class values are lived and not just laminated. Awesome! You have just completed your lesson on how to develop class values. Thank you for spending this time with us. It's time for your GEM Step. A GEM Step is an assignment that helps you to put into practice what you've just learned. It will help you make better daily choices and become the best version of yourself. Using the same steps, develop values for yourself as a teacher. Also, remember to like our social media pages and sign up for the other courses under this branch if you haven't done so already. Be sure to practice your GEM Step and share your experiences with us. Until we see you again on the next course, remember, we are here to cheer you on to greatness. The more that you read, the more things you would know. The more that you learn, the more places you go. By Dr. Seuss.